Good morning. Welcome in. Welcome to the Rebel HR Weekly Ask Me Anything. If you've been here before, you know the deal. Please say hi to me in the comments. Otherwise, I have no clue you're here. And let me know where you're watching from. If you have questions, which hopefully that's what you showed up to the Ask Me Anything for, with questions, you can start adding them into the comment section at any time. I don't see them, obviously. I see them once you add them, and sooner better than later so that we can get to all the questions. Sometimes what happens is people are slow to start putting their questions in, or they join late, and then at the end, I have a whole bunch of questions I haven't gotten to. So add your questions as you have them, and it really is an Ask Me Anything. I'll answer anything, and I'll answer it transparently, regardless of what the answer actually is. So hopefully that's the draw of why people are here. For new people, welcome, welcome. I started the Rebel HR because I got tired of, and this has been a couple of years now. I got tired of all the misinformation being peddled out there and used to separate frustrated job seekers from their funds for resume writing, career coaching, and of course, all the infinite scams that we see on a regular basis. So I wanted to have something where I'm offering free information and knowledge and guidance and coaching and feedback for frustrated job seekers. It's a really hard market. It's a tough market for all of us, not just job seekers, also recruiters. And most recruiters have been job seekers in this market as well. So we're all frustrated. We all understand the frustrations. There are a lot of reasons for the frustrations. And I want to share what those are very transparently, right? There's root causes, and then there are things that we're scapegoating, right? Like AI is something we're scapegoating. Root cause is an imbalanced job market, imbalance of supply and demand in certain sectors, especially tech. So we hired like crazy for the last 20 years in tech. And because it was like, don't worry about profit. Let's just get all the adoption and scale up. We'll worry about profit later. Well, that didn't go well. I mean, it went well for a while we were building and adopting and scaling, and now everyone wants efficiency. So, plus we spent a lot of time over the last decade, 2 decades, 15 years building low code and no code technology, which by default is going to decrease and contract the number of production engineers and just engineers needed in the job market. Of course, AI is also creating many new roles and opportunities, but definitely the shape of the workforce and the shape even of corporate machines is changing rapidly even. So that's what I'm here for. Shape shifting is hard. Reinventing yourself is hard, mostly in mindset, not in actual tactical, execution. But the mindset around change is hard, right? So I'm here to help in any way I can and support people as they work to stay relevant in this very fast changing job market. So a couple housekeeping items. Like I said, add your questions into the comments so we can get to them. Up in the left-hand corner here, I have a QR code for Buy Me a Coffee. I like coffee. I have my coffee right here. I hate asking for support, but also it costs money to have StreamYard and, all these different platforms that I use to make sure I can show up and do this for people, plus my time. Again, I like offering this for free. And when people can support my efforts, I also appreciate that too. So thank you in advance. About halfway through, I'm going to switch that QR code out and I'm going to put up the school QR code, which is another platform that I pay for. And it's a whole free community. Okay. There are resources inside of the school platform for you. Okay. I've offered job search guides, resume feedback. I'm giving money away in there, even though, I don't have any coming in necessarily, but like I really want to make it a robust and informative and useful community. Okay. I truly believe with my whole heart that community is going to be the most important thing in this next chapter. That human connection, being connected with people, that trust factor of humanness is going to matter more now with the rise of AI than ever before. So please join our community. Like I said, halfway through, I will be popping that QR code in so that you can easily go ahead and join. Like I said, it's free for anyone to join the community. There is an opportunity for you to support the community in there as well, but it's free for everyone who needs it to be free. Okay. I am not in the business of trying to take money from frustrated job seekers who don't have income coming in. That is not a strategy that will help me sleep well at night. And I get a good 7 to 8 hours every night. Okay. I feel good about it. So that's my litmus test where integrity is concerned. If it will bother me, I won't do it. And yeah. All right, guys. So welcome in, and please drop your comments or your questions in the comments so we can start answering them. If no one has questions, I will find something to talk about. Don't you worry one little bit. I am pretty good at talking on the fly. And if nobody gives me a topic, I have plenty topics that I'd like to share. Let me share one today with you. It's July 1st. Okay. So July 1st, we have Independence Day coming in America in the next 3 days, July 4th. And regardless of what you think about the United States of America right now, and whether you're dissatisfied, frustrated, disenchanted, disgusted, whatever it is, you can still celebrate independence, your own independence. Okay. You don't have to celebrate the country per se if you don't want to, although I still love our country. I definitely am more focused on independence in general. One piece of guidance that I'm going to give you today, unsolicited feedback about independence. Okay. I feel strongly about everyone's ability to live a high agency, empowered, accountable life. Okay. And one of the things that helps that happen is the concept of detachment. Okay. If you let's take this to an interview scenario. Okay. If you show up to an interview detached from getting it, like detached from the outcome, like you want this thing, you're excited about this opportunity, but you absolutely are detached from whatever comes out of the interview, from the result, from whether you get an offer or not. Like you show up with a level of confidence, right? Um, it's almost an energy of you need me more than I need you. Okay. And there's value in that. There's value in showing up that way. Okay. And it's not about faking it. It's not about a concern for looking or, the energy of desperation, although that is a real thing and it's palpable. But it's really about when you detach from the outcome of things, you're free to let your best self come through. If you're worried about landing the interview, landing the job, you're very attached to the outcome of this interview, that will create more nerves than any other state of being. Okay. Like I've got everything is staked on this one interview and I have to win it. I have to land this role. That's a lot of pressure and it will impact how you're able to show up and interview. Okay. So if you detach, for me, this works and it works wonders. If I detach from the outcome of anything, I'm free to show up fully, authentically in my best energy, right? Because the fear of not winning the interview is gone. I'm detached from the outcome. It's a lot. I make the comparison to dating a lot because energetically it's similar, right? If somebody shows up to a date, a first date, really, really focused on it being a great date and having a second date and like really wanting the person to like them, they're not going to show up in the most attractive energy space. Okay. When you don't care, what the outcome is, you just want to have a good time, right? Or like with an interview, if you don't care what the outcome is, you just want to learn about the company and opportunity and share about yourself. You can almost think of it as practice. Um, you show up in a totally different energy space. It's very attractive. There's something about the attractive magnetic energy of, I don't need you or this, right? I want you or this, but I don't need you or this. Okay. So that's my unsolicited guidance for the morning. I posted something today on LinkedIn. It said, if more is always, if more always matters, right? If it's always good to have more, if more is always the desired outcome, you'll never have enough. Think about that. That's so real, right? That's why people can make $300,000, $400,000 a year and still not feel they have enough, because if more is always the objective, there is no ever enough, because more always needs more. It's insatiable. There's insatiable need for more is the enemy of contentment and satisfaction and happiness and all the positives. So, all right, I'm giving you a lot of random mindset feedback right now. And but I'd rather answer questions about job search, resumes, interviews, performance reviews, HR things, job search things. Hey, Aaron, how are you? So yeah, throw me a question. Aaron, I'll bet you got a question. Give me something so I don't ramble on with left to my own devices, because I'm sure I'll find things to talk about, but I don't know if there'll be things that people want to hear. Let's see, what else could I share? I saw something posted. LinkedIn is my inspiration, clearly. I saw something posted, and it was this. Okay. So this person had an interview, and at the end of the interview, or a couple days after, they received an email that said, we're going ahead to hire an internal candidate, so we're passing on your candidacy. And this person was very upset that the company bothered to interview externally if they knew that they were hiring internally. So I want to give my perspective on this, because I think this is a very common misconception. When an internal candidate wants a role, it's not guaranteed that they're going to get it. Okay, let me say that again, because I've seen this play out differently many, many, many times. Okay, if there's an internal candidate that wants a role, they may not necessarily get the role. Okay, we post it externally because they internally have to, in many companies, they have to compete for the role too. They have to go through the same interview process that the external candidates go through. They're being evaluated against the same criteria that the internal candidate is. So it's not to say that just because there's an internal candidate, that doesn't mean that the internal candidate automatically every time gets the job. I have literally, in 27 years of doing this, I mean, I've been in that scenario hundreds of times, and I've seen it go both ways. It's probably 50-50. Now, do the internal candidates have an advantage? Of course they do. They have industrial knowledge. They have knowledge of internal processes, people, teams, culture, strategy, all the things. They already are deemed a culture fit. They already are part of they already have connections and relationships in the organization. So yes, externally, you have to be really good to beat out an internal candidate because there are certain aspects that they will have an advantage in that you can't, right? There's just no way that you can have the same level of familiarity internally, as the internal. But I will tell you, 50% of the time when we go out looking externally for this person and that they have to interview against those external candidates, 50% of the time the external candidates get the role. Why? Because in spite of the fact that they don't have internal knowledge, relationships, connections, and proven kind of experience, they bring a new, fresh set of eyes to a problem that anybody internally hasn't maybe already solved, right? So they bring something more. They're an add to the existing team, right? And even if the internal person does get the role, that still opens up another role in the company, right? So it's net still an open position for somebody externally. So I want to clarify that. I don't think people should have the mindset that it's 100% of the time just a waste of time to interview in that scenario. First of all, you'll rarely ever know that's the case, right? And surprisingly, they were honest in this case after the fact. But don't make the assumption. If I lined up 100 recruiters, we've all seen the external candidate beat out the internal candidate. Laura Gassman, hey Laura, one of my favorite people out in LinkedIn, one of my favorite recruiters. She's been the internal candidate before that didn't get the job. So I want you guys to understand that your chances are just as high of getting into a company when there's an internal candidate as when there's not, right? The other thing too is the internal candidate is a known entity. That doesn't always work in their favor, right? Maybe they think they can find somebody externally that's whatever, does more whatever. Who knows? There's just myriad reasons why the decisions that are made. And normally nobody has real, full transparency or visibility into them, into the reasons behind them, into why. Okay. There is some degree of trust required. And I think the biggest pain right now in the job market is that trust is breaking down all over the place, not just job seekers and candidates, but recruiters as well. We have fake people showing up to interview. We have people no showing final interviews. Like, it's madness at this point. So let's see. Okay, Aaron said, are internal candidates more likely to get a job? They slightly underqualified for because of the trust and inside knowledge and relationships. Potentially, it really depends on the role and what's needed. I would say that a new person or somebody, it depends on the problem being solved, right? If there's something, if it's to solve something or to create a new department or a new function or a new strategy or a new product, a lot of times we're going to hire externally because, we know that there's something missing already internally. But yes, Aaron, so promotional opportunities for people who don't quite have the experience, but they've proven themselves in other ways, right? From a perspective of character, and work ethic and connection and, dependability or whatever. Yes, once you've proved yourself in a lot of those ways, of course, there's a higher level of trust and opportunity, going forward. So I would say it really depends on the type of role and the type of company. I'm in startups a lot. And I would say that inside startups, everybody internally is stretched to their, beyond their capacity. It's kind of like a normal tenet inside of a startup. Very rarely is there we move people around a lot in startups, but usually to align them, less so because there's this gap and we can't find the person outside, so we have to find somebody inside. It doesn't really work that way. But again, it very much depends. I've been in a lot of different environments and it depends. I would also say this: if it's an existing established team and there are several people in it, that's a more conducive environment for somebody coming from outside, per se, than, bringing somebody in that's in another department in that same company. Because again, an established team is going to have a lot of, like they're established. They know where their strengths and weaknesses lie. Um, and more than likely, they've identified a gap that doesn't exist in the company. I mean, that's the more common scenario that I've seen. Laura said, do you feel that recruiting leadership is agnostic? Okay, someone that hasn't recruited for tech can lead a team of tech recruiters in addition to leading teams of other functions? Yeah, I mean, look, leadership is a funny thing. I think that so my entire career, I've watched people who are really good individual contributors get promoted into management positions. But there's very little, Laura, I know you know this, very little correlation between being really good at my tactical executed individual contributor work and managing people. It's totally managing people is a huge skill set in and of itself. So for me, it's less about the direct, specific, in the weeds experience, unless you're going in as a founding head of TA with no team, and you're going to have to fill roles while building your team, while changing tires, while flying down the highway. In that case, I think it's really important that you have the experience with the actual roles. If it's an established organization and there's teams and there's already senior technical recruiter and a senior go-to-market recruiter or whatever the functional areas are, then just a solid leader who understands TA principles structurally, operationally, systemically is great. Like I don't think it matters. I also know that good recruiters can recruit for something they've never recruited before and be great at it. And it has nothing to do with the experience or the skill set of the actual role, right? So there are tons of positions that I did, all throughout my career. It was like the first time recruiting data scientists and the first time recruiting applied research. That's what happens when you're living at the crest of the wave of technology. First time I was hiring for an NLP engineer. These are all very new. These were newer technologies at the time, not now, but at the time. And so it's like it was always challenging to find these kinds of people. But again, I think we over index on the importance of IC experience for leadership. And we way under index on the importance of leadership experience or prowess, for management roles. It's mind blowing, actually. I've seen more top performing ICs get promoted into management and hate it. And they weren't good at it, which is often why they hated it, right? And there are some people who are just naturally good leaders, and they may not be great at the IC role. They may not be the best recruiter in the team, right? But that doesn't mean that they aren't a really good leader. Good leaders bring out the best in everyone around them. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that answers. All right, Aaron, here's a question I asked on LinkedIn today. Have you seen a job posting where a company is looking for a subject matter expert on something and says they will train them on AI stuff, even if they don't have AI experience? That seems like a good way to get good people and also help move them forward into the AI era without needing to find someone with both things. I haven't seen that yet. No, in fact, I haven't worked yet a role where AI experience is like heavily critical. It's interesting, and that curiosity is a good signal, but it's not like, a vital aspect of the roles that I've most recently worked on, which is very few, right? I'm not in a corporate recruiting seat right now, so it's not really what I'm fielding. But I will say this. I have said this a lot. I think very veteran subject matter experts are going to have a very big role in the growth of AI, because in all the systems, there are always gaps, nuance gaps, right? And those nuance gaps will have to be independently dealt with and trained by a human being who understands the gray areas, right? AI is a probability machine. We all know that, or at least most of us know that, and it very much leaves it's terrible at edge cases and outliers. It's really good at, the probabilistic, inevitability of like the middle of everything, right? Whether it's the middle job seekers, the middle candidates, the middle of anything. And that means that it's not great at the gaps, right? It's not great at nuance. So I believe that SMEs are going to have a very important, critical, like machine training orchestrator type function in the future. And I think that'll be incredibly competitive. And I believe that those roles are going to be like, there'll be many fewer, right? Subject matter experts training a team of machine workers or agents versus, a whole team of people, right? So there are going to be less roles, they'll be more competitive, they will only want the best of the best subject matter expert veterans in those functions, I believe. Also, those people have to bring with them a very vast perspective, right? So in order to not continue to build bias and limitations and constraints into AI, you're going to need somebody to be able to handle and approach the nuance in between the systems, um, from a lot of different perspectives. Like me, for example, I have agency recruiting experience, I have internal corporate recruiting experience, I've been a hiring manager, a talent leader, so I had to build my own team and hire as well. I've also purchased and implemented all the systems involved in the recruiting process, so I'm very operationally sound. So I truly bring a 360 perspective of talent, operations, leadership, attraction, all of it, um, to the table. So I think that that'll be a profile that's very popular. I've actually thought, Aaron, a little bit about creating like a consultancy agency for that, right? Like very specific subject matter experts in different areas that can go out and work with you and your, machine learning and, help develop the workflows and the automations that will exist, that will augment them. So I do think, yes, Aaron, you're gonna see more of that for sure. I'm actually also incredibly shocked at how much AI experience companies are expecting people to bring. But I will say this: if you're just a regular AI user, like you've been using chatbots and maybe exploring with agents, but like for the last couple of years, that's not what they're talking about when they say that we want 5+ years of AI experience. Usually it's an engineering role, a product role, and we're talking about the people who've been building this stuff for the last 10, 15 years, right? So like I first worked for a company in 2012 or 2012, 2013, that was it was building a fully AI platform for identifying fraud in natural language communications and unstructured data, unstructured comms like emails and such, right? So a fraud detection tool in natural language. That was being built in 2012, 2013. I was hiring for NLP engineers. We were hiring people who were involved in the build out of AI. So when you see a job role that's asking for more years of experience in AI, look deeper. They're probably talking about product building, strategizing. They're not talking about like you use ChatGPT to figure out which brand of spaghetti is better for you. Like that's not what they're talking about. So, um, but I do think everybody should play with it, explore, and see what it's capable of. There are some really good use cases, and of course, there are some really bad ones. Mercor pays SMEs to build data sets or something like that. I don't know exactly. Yeah, they shifted out of like skills assessing into like tagging, like training, you know, data tagging, indexing, things like that. Meh, I don't know. I don't know what Mercor is up to these days, but I do definitely know that there's an opportunity for, you know, critically thinking subject matter experts who take a very human approach to things. So don't know that Mercor is hiring those folks. So I don't know. I got to look into that. The name Mercor has come up like 5 times for me in the past 2 weeks. So whatever they're doing, I need to go look at it apparently, since I have a 3-thing rule. If I hear something come up 3 times or more in different contexts, that is my ding, ding, ding. You need to go look at that rule. It's my rule. It's a Lori rule. I think everybody should have their own set of rules, right? Be high agency humans. So, all right, what else? Let me take this opportunity to switch out the QR codes. I'm going to take down my little buy me a coffee, which I really appreciate any support. Like I said, StreamYard School and all these platforms I use to show up and give free guidance do cost money. So it's not that I want to make money from doing this. I just don't want to lose money from doing this. So I appreciate the support in advance. So that's what the buy me a coffee QR code is, but I'm going to pop up the school community. So this is the Rebel HR community on the school platform. Please join. It is a free entry community. There is a way to financially support the community once you're in there, but I'm not asking for anyone to do that. It's available for anyone who needs it to be free. If you like what I'm doing and you appreciate this kind of transparency, then feel free to support it. But the Gen X in me just doesn't really like asking for financial support. So talk about cringe. That's Gen X cringe right there. So anyway, it's there and I appreciate it. But do join us in the school community. It's a community for job seekers who need guidance and for recruiters and recruiting subject matter experts, resume writers, career coaches, but Rebel HR approved ones who want to give transparent, open guidance, feedback, who like doing some pro bono coaching, things like that. So it's a community for all of us to be in, to exchange real information. No scams allowed, no grifters allowed. It's a grifter free zone. So that's why I created it, because I just absolutely couldn't believe the amount of effort and structure these grifters had going, potting each other, supporting each other out there, getting their posts viral, but giving absolute crapple guidance. So I just, instead of railing against it every day, I figured I'll just do the same thing and I'll show up for free and provide real valuable information. And hopefully that's helping people. Hopefully people are appreciating it and there's value there. Let's see, we have a little bit more time left if people have more questions, or I can come up with something to talk about, because yeah, that's not hard for me at all. So I would like to add this. I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. A lot of times in a very competitive, tight job market where there's talent everywhere, there's tons of people laid off from the market. A lot of times the outliers are the ones who struggle the most, right? So you don't have a clean, perfect upward growth trajectory in your career like me. You have gaps in your resume like me. You maybe, so like in the land of the not clean trajectory, I have leadership roles, then I have IC contract roles, then I have another leadership role, then I have another IC contract role. It looks like I could care less, because truly I could care less about my title or my trajectory. I care a lot about the product, the technology, what the company's mission is, and the people I work with. Like, that's what matters to me. So I've taken roles accordingly, right? Not based on title, ego, whatever. Like, I just cared less about that. And now it's coming back to hurt me. So those are some of the challenges. Also, the age thing, all of those biases that have less of a place when talent is scarce have all the place when talent is flush. It's just reality. If we have a whole lot of applicants and we have to start whittling down, we're going to start using real weird arbitrary things to get down to the top candidates. So I think people should know that, because it's not like these are terrible companies and they want to discriminate. It's that it's an employer's market, and they can be really choosy and actually up level their talent game right now. So like, any company that isn't using this market to up level their whole talent approach is nuts. I mean, it's the bar is so low right now on candidate experience and employer brand. Any company can stand out right now as a top employer. It is so not difficult. In fact, all it really requires is humanness and transparency, good messaging. If, for example, if I were, and this is to the talent leaders, the recruiters that watch this later, if I was designing a top of funnel process and I needed some friction in that process, right? And I'm asking you guys to do, applicants to do anything before they talk to a person, anything, an assessment, a video, an AI screen, anything I ask you to do before you talk to a person, I will get on video and explain why. You'll see me on video before I ask you to be on video. And you'll hear me talking about why we're doing this, what it enables, how it how it helps all the people involved, how we'll evaluate it, and why, like, what matters to us, why are we doing this, right? We're looking this It's like seen as such an inhuman thing to have an ask before you talk to a person, but it's kind of the most human thing we could do, is ask for more context that a 2D resume and application is going to leave out. So that top of funnel friction also gives more people the opportunity to compete, right? It's not replacing a human step. It's replacing getting rejected without being able to add more context to your candidacy. That's what it's doing. So Aaron said, which type of roles and companies are more likely to use automated screening versus those who will never switch? That's a really good question. Okay, let's start with the obvious. So size is going to be a player, right? So very large corporations, very large companies, 10,000 plus employees, okay? Those companies are built like machines, right? With lots of cogs in them. And the machine is designed so that if one cog is taken out and replaced with another cog, the machine is not disrupted at all right? For companies that are very big like that, and roles that are not as high impact. So like, this is never going to play for leadership roles. It's never going to play for high demand engineering roles, right? This is going to play for volume roles or commodity type roles, either in very large companies or volume roles for low skilled. So the where we started seeing AI in the process at top of funnel, and that screening, automated screening at top of funnel. And I want to dig in on what automated screening means, because people think about that incorrectly. But it was first seen in low skilled volume service industry and retail. Think restaurant jobs, retail jobs, travel, hospitality jobs. Okay. Service industry, retail. These are low skill, high volume. Resumes don't really have signals for that. Right. So it's like getting to a signal as quickly as possible for a hire fast, fire fast type job makes sense. Right. So that's the first place we saw that. Then again, we started seeing it in the voluminous white collar commodity jobs. Think data analysts, think project managers, think marketing folks, content creators, less so creative roles, I would say. Creative, this doesn't play well with creatives. let's say, very kind of like low impact, but decent paying volume type jobs. Let's say we're seeing it that. Now, I want to fix one thing. So when you say likely to use automated screening, okay, so automated implies that everything is happening without human involvement, and that's not necessarily the case. So almost, I've seen no cases. I think it is starting to happen in that low skill, high volume retail and service industry world. But I have seen no place in the laptop class world where AI is automatically rejecting people. Okay. So here's what it actually does, right? Even when at the screening level, it's really ranking and sorting people. It's really identifying signals and ranking and sorting. It's flagging things, it's pulling things out, it's ranking, it's sorting, it's giving its feedback. But the humans are making the decisions to yes, reject, or no, find more out. Okay. I think that's important to help to say. Yeah, well, like round one, sure. Human still makes the decision in round one. Like we get the signal back and we still are the ones choosing whether or not to move forward with that person. But yeah, you'll see the jobs that I explained, I think, are the ones where you'll see that the most. The ones that'll never use that. So like there's no land and possibility of like an early stage startup, which is really where most of my experience lives. So I may have like a biased lens here, but like we'll never be using AI screening in, high impact, first in 0 to 1 builder roles. It'll absolutely, 1, it'll repel those people entirely. 2, there's not enough signal. I don't think AI understands the nuance of what a startup renegade misfit person is. And I think that there's just zero value. These are also not high volume applicant roles, right? Like company ABC that just started up a couple of years ago, got its first round of funding, and no one knows who they are, doesn't have thousands of applicants, for a job post necessarily. Nor would I even post a job for that stage of a company. So yeah, I just don't that's a place it doesn't play. Creatives, I think it doesn't play well with creatives. Obviously engineers, especially the better they are, the more in demand they are, the less interested they're going to be in doing any of those things. I think that pretty much lays out, and then of course there's the companies that are incredibly analog. They have just enough technology to still function in a post-pandemic world, but they're not looking for disruption and innovation every step of the way. They're not going to adopt something like this, at least not anytime soon, right? So like they'll be late adopters of this when this is the standard. Once this is the only way every interview process starts, which will happen probably a couple of years from now, but like down that road, that's when the companies that are like less innovative will jump on board because they'll have to, right? People will already be conditioned to that being the norm, and then they'll have to shift over. Very much like how we saw COVID was a forcing factor for industries that hadn't gone through like a full digital transformation. COVID allowed, and which I think was part of the point of COVID, was to pressure test our digitally transformed infrastructure and see where the holes still existed. I remember one of the biggest forcing factors that I saw during COVID was in the mortgage industry. People did a lot of moving, if you remember, during COVID, and it was really hard to get mortgages and, title checks and all that stuff was very paper heavy and manual. And so it exposed all the gaps, the digitally transformed gaps in the mortgage industry. So that industry went nuts with technology during 2020, 2021, 2022. Not only that, but the lending industry was primarily responsible for the PPP lending scam. I'm going to say scam, sorry. But like, so they were the ones doing the processing work on the PPP scam. So, they also were, that was a forcing factor as well. So it was a very interesting, you'll, there is always an industry trend for disruption. So, like, you'll always see the very first iteration, like new technology shows up in usually first around marketing, advertising, and things that help generate more revenue. Right. That's always the crest of the wave of technology. That's where we saw the big data come into play and programmatic, and we saw the digital transformation path kind of come through all the different industries, the non-tech industries, in a very clear pattern. And I think we're seeing that again with AI. And so it's interesting. I feel like it offloads the cost from the company to the candidate, given that the company has less human labor involved. The claim is more people get more opportunity, but really they just end up doing more things. Well, but okay, cool. But that's not exactly the case. So what is the alternative? So you assume that human resume screeners are good at screening resumes, and we're not. That's not a great use of human labor. Why? So like so how do I say this? So AI, we know AI has bias built into it, but it's like the same bias. So the same bias is going to exist across that entire pipeline of applicants, as opposed to humans. So me and my coworker, Joe, may have totally different ways of screening applicants, but we're both screening applicants for similar roles because there's so much volume. You said in the the alternatives to hire more people to do more screening, but like my screening at 8 a.m. compared to my screening for the same role at 5 p.m. are going to be different. Like, I'm not even fully objective across a pipeline. So it's not just about cost. I promise it's not just about cost. It's about the alternative to this is me whittling down 200 minimally qualified applicants based on assumptions and vibes and bias. That is what humans have to screen with. We have our assumptions, we have vibes, like we get a vibe from a resume, and bias. That's what it is. So at least with AI, there is sort of an objective layer, looking from the exact same lens. So every single applicant is screened from the exact same lens and set of parameters. And that's just not the case with humans. So there is a cost factor. You could see it that way, and also the alternative to this isn't an accurate hiring science at all, right? What AI has exposed, Aaron, is that we've never been very good at hiring. So I'm really good at evaluating people, but it's it's intuitive. I have like a sixth sense intuition about people. That is not objective. That is not scalable. That does not align across my team. I can't teach it. I can't measure it. I can't validate or defend it. So what we're working towards is more fairness, more objectivity at the top of the funnel. And the sooner we get away from 2D resumes, the better, because the why that's hard at the top of the funnel and across a volume of applicants is that their signals and resumes suck. There just aren't a lot of really good signals and resumes. Yeah, there's some assumptions that are like fair assumptions to make when looking at a resume, but there is no less complete uh, representation of the full human and their essence than a resume. It just it just lacks, right? In 2026, there's no reason that that's what we're relying on, and I'm excited about the next iteration of deeper profiles. So, like what you're working on. It's cool. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? What and by the way, the I don't like all of the top of funnel AI screenings. I don't like the one-way ones. Round 1, what's good about it is you actually can also ask the AI questions, and, like, I can set up the screening so that it asks what I want it to ask. It also can even come in my voice. There are human ways and respectable ways to conduct it, so. Signals and resumes suck, especially today, because people are just replicating a job description. They're writing their resume as a replication of job descriptions. They've been sold on the idea that it's all about keywords, matching keywords, and that kind of thing. And it's just not. Um, there's very little way to like read essence into a resume. I can know very little about you or your character, your values, or what matters to you by your resume. I am eager to fix that. Um, all a resume to me is an account of your past experiences from your perspective, right? Even the metrics, Aaron, in a resume are not a great signal because they're reported by the person um, whose resume it is. It's self-evaluation, and a lot of that data is fudged because it's not verifiable data to begin with, right? So like Aaron, I on my resume, there's some data points like 95% offer acceptance rate. What does that tell you about me? You could assume I'm just really, really good at negotiating and selling opportunities. You could also assume that we are hiring safe. And there's so many assumptions, and not all of them are directly related to me and what my value that I bring to the table. Um, I care a lot more. I mean, experience matters, skills matter, but once we vet the minimum qualifications for somebody, I care a hell of a lot more about their mindset at that point. I don't like, yeah. So the metric thing is comical, and it's funny because not we're forcing metrics where metrics don't have value even in some cases. So like, there are companies that will reject you because you don't have a very quantitative resume. Um, but so it forces people to add metrics that aren't even real, that they're pulling them out of their backside. They're not relevant to anything. Also, metrics only matter in a specific organization. So like at ABC company, if we measure X and X is our guiding, our North Star, our guiding light, that that metric won't necessarily matter in the next 3 companies that you go talk to. Like, so the whole metric thing is strange. I do agree that we're seeking people who are analytical in mindset, right? Like they seek ways to measure their assumptions, test their assumptions, measure their progress, measure their production or increases or decreases or efficiencies or optimization or whatever. But like now that we have AI coming in everywhere in all the little crevices of our lives, I don't think that us being optimized high metric I don't think that's what we're best at. I think AI is good at that. I think AI is always going to be a better data analyst than a human, obviously. But so I think that we have to look, Aaron, too, at new ways to represent human value. I think we've spent the last 30, 40 years trying to make everyone as similar as possible so that they're most easily measured, so that we can compare productivity. And that is about to get flipped on its head. We all of a sudden are going to be highly valued for our unique creative contribution to the world. Try figuring that out on a resume. Let's try figuring out how to understand somebody's human value, their authenticity, their essence, their uniqueness, their thinking, their metacognition. can't figure that out in a resume. You can barely figure that out in an interview process. Do you know at the end of the day, we still are hiring on assumptions and, you know, some past proof, which is sort of relevant, right? Who here has been in different environments and was differently productive or valuable in those different environments due to things outside of your control, right? Like some cultures and environments are very easy to be very productive in, and some are almost impossible, right? It's a company full of contrarian leaders who will poke holes in everything all the time. I mean, like, you'll never feel like you're accomplishing anything in that environment. So again, it just depends. That's the answer to most things in hiring is it depends. There's nuance. Context changes everything with the metrics. Resume doesn't tell the story at all. 10% growth could be amazing at one company and horrible at another. Exactly. There's no standard, right, metrics across anything. There are some metrics that are common and valued in specific industries. Like in recruiting, we have a set of metrics and KPIs that most all of us are familiar with. And some of them are BS and some of them are valuable. So like I hate time to hire and time to fill, which are, by the way, two totally different metrics that most people don't even understand, including recruiters. Shocking. But time to fill is connected to the role and time to hire is connected to the candidate, right? So time to hire is from the first contact with candidate A to offer. That's time to hire. But time to fill is associated with the job. So from the day that the role is opened to the day that the role is closed, that's time to fill versus time to hire. Anyway, but those are the ones that are BS because time-bound metrics don't elicit better quality. If anything, they impact it negatively, right? If I have to get it closed faster, then that doesn't mean I'm going to take the time to find the best people. I'm going to find the easiest to close people. So I've never managed by that metric. I think it's actually very lazy and it makes no sense. What I will do though is I look at those numbers, the time to fill, time to hire over time. And I'm just always looking for like stability or decrease. I don't look at it as an independent metric that I would use to like improve process. But the metrics I do use to improve process are ones that are less, people are less focused on those, especially on resumes and interviews. And those are conversion percentages, right? My conversion percentages through my funnel say a lot more about my process and where things get bottlenecked and where the improvements should be made more than anything else. That and source. I love candidate source. Candidate source data, like if I understand where the best people are coming from, then I'm going to double down on that and I'm going to eliminate other sources of applicants. So I'll post differently according to my source data. So again, but Erin, in just the way I talked about that, it's not about the metrics themselves that you would see on a resume. I could have metrics on my resume and somebody else with a very similar background to me can have metrics on their resume and they may not be able to talk about them the way I just did, meaning I understand why I measure certain things. I also understand why I don't like to measure other certain things. I understand trade-offs and I understand systems thinking. So that's a very different view of how I would lead a talent acquisition function using analytics and a dashboard and metrics than the person next to me who's just, this is the list of metrics I've always had. This is the list of metrics I manage. And they couldn't tell you why, just those are the metrics they've always been measured on. And so those are the metrics they're going to measure their team on. I don't think that way. I think, why are we measuring this? What behavior does this incentivize? What behavior does this, make more difficult? So I want to align things I measure to actual desired outcomes. Again, I'm an analytical thinker. The other person is not an analytical thinker, but our resume looks the same. That's why I say signal sucks. Hope that's helpful. All right, so we're wrapping up. We're at the end now. I just want to say I thank you guys so much for joining. Please don't forget to go ahead and join the Rebel HR community for more of this. You can ask questions 7 days a week. I will answer when I can. There's also other recruiters in there who will answer potentially. I'm still working on that part. But yeah, please keep coming back to these every Wednesday morning, and have a wonderful Independence Day weekend. Bye-bye.